Alright guys, so we're going to start a new unit today, and today's topic is chemical quantities. One thing to make note of, you will need your calculator every day. So make sure you have that because we're going to be using calculations every day and using our calculators. Alright, so the first thing we're going to discuss is ways that we distinguish in chemistry how to count. And one way we do this is that we can count by mass. So if we put something on a scale, we can calculate how much it weighs. From that we can determine its mass, all right, how much matter it contains. A bulk unit is a unit which represents a larger quantity. Now we know many different types of bulk unit. We know that a dozen eggs represents 12 eggs. We know a bushel of apples is going to represent a certain number of apples. Same with a ream of paper. We know that there's a certain amount that is associated with a ream of paper. Well, in chemistry, a bulk unit that we use that we know is associated with a certain amount is called a mole. Now, a mole is equal to 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Alright, this is a very large number. The way we enter that number into our calculators would be 6.02 EE or EXP and then 23. Alright, there's no difference really between a mole or a dozen. 1 dozen equals 12. 1 mole equals 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. This number is also known as Avogadro's number. And the abbreviation for mole is MOL. So one of the tools which you're going to be given when we use when we do work with moles is what we call the mole map. And this is the mole map. Now eventually you're going to be able to use the entire map, but for this chapter we're going to focus on just this part of the mole map. Mass A, moles A, atoms or molecules of A. That's where our focus is going to be. And we're going to break down each part for you and how to use it. And the way we're going to use the mole map is just using a series of unit multipliers. Now, we've talked about unit multipliers in chapter 2. Now we're going to bring them back and we're going to look at some unit multipliers here. So if we were to try to determine how many eggs there are in 23 dozen eggs, we would first we'd set up a unit multiplier. So we'd set it up where we'd have 23 dozen and we know that we want to get rid of the unit of dozen, so dozen's going to go on the bottom, eggs is going to go up top, and we know that there are 12 eggs in 1 dozen. We then just simply, dozen cancels out. We multiply 23 times 12, which you're going to do now on your calculators, and you're going to get an answer. I would like to see this example in your notes. Well, on the same token, we can do the same thing using atoms and moles. If we have 6.0 moles, we're going to set up a unit multiplier. We know that we want to get rid of the unit moles, so moles is going to go on the bottom. And we know that atoms is going to go up top. Now the unit that's always going to go next to mole is 1. And in 1 mole we have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. So we're going to multiply 6 6.0 times 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. So I want you to enter these into your calculator and derive an answer. Remember, when you enter 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd in your calculator, you're going to enter it as 6.02 EE or EXP button, then 23. Now, if we wanted to go backwards, if we wanted to go from atoms to moles, all that's changed is our starting point. We have 1.974 times 10 to the 26th atoms. We're going to set up a unit multiplier, and we know that we want to get rid of atoms, so atoms will go on the bottom. Up top will go mole. The number that always goes next to mole is the number 1. And we know in 1 mole we have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. So the way we're going to enter this into our calculator, we're going to enter 1.974 EE or EXP 26 divide by 6.02 EE or EXP 23, and you're going to get an answer. So you should have these examples in your notes. I would like you to draw out the first part of the mole map, that part that's circled. Have that in your notes. You'll be given a mole map in class as well. And have the definition of bulk unit and mole in your notes. I will come by and check that, and we'll work on these types of problems in class tomorrow.